Everything we do in the liturgy ultimately leads up to the Eucharist. The Eucharist is essentially the conclusion of everything. It's the climax. If you want to look at it, I'm an English teacher, so if you want to look at it as a drama, there's all these movements, songs and prayers and the creed, which is very important, but it all leads up to the climax of the Eucharist, where we all converge. When we were Protestant, when we did the Lord's Supper, they would pass around trays with little cups of grape juice and crackers, and we'd all stay in our seats and partake. But in the Eucharist is here. And the priest administers it, and we all converge. We flock together. In this case, it's not just an intellectual thing. If you reflect on it, you can say, oh, that's the climax. But you don't have to have that word in your head. You feel it that way because you can just feel that when the Eucharist comes forth, that's what we've all been waiting for.
Without being in any way profane, it's no difference to eat a meal for lunch and to eat the Eucharist. There is a difference, liturgically, ritually, and those sorts of things. You can do away with that and just think, oh, food is just fuel for my body, or you can have a sacramental view of it, which still incorporates, the need not to be gluttonous and the recognition that food is fuel for my body, but incorporates that into something that is much greater. Oh, this meal is now something wherein I'm able to commune with my God, the true God, not just the God in my head, not some fuzzy God that I've made up in my own form of spirituality, but the true God who is the creator of both me and the things that are in this food. And I'm communing with the rest of creation out of which it was grown. And so, again, it becomes an agape meal. An agape meal, it becomes one that is a sharing in love, but which is also one of self-giving.
Seeing him carefully, just the tenderness of putting it into each person, taking care of them in that way. It's a very caring thing to feed someone. It's a very selfless thing to do. And then that they bring that bread to other people, I think is also, even though they're not necessarily part of the line, right? They're not able to take it quite yet. And watching them sort of pick up the bread out of the big bowl and hand it out to people who can't go up quite yet. That sense of inclusion.
The children, even a baby who enters as a full member of the church, when they're baptized, they receive the Eucharist. Even these tiny little babies, newborns going up and taking the Eucharist. It's not like when you know enough or when you're old enough to really understand this or that or the other. It's a gift, and it's a pure gift that you don't deserve at all by any kind of merit or wisdom or knowledge or anything. It's just, I had a priest say he felt like it was the most pure example of God's grace for us, that he will love and accept these little babies, which, why would he not, too, when you think of it that way? But, we often talk about we believe in God's grace, but we still have these sort of qualifications, like you have to know this and this and this and understand this. And obviously those children need to grow up and mature in their faith, as we all do. They can't stay infants forever. The scriptures talk about you have milk when you're an infant and then you move on to solid food. And I feel like by bringing our children into the church as babies, we are able to give them all the blessings of the church that has to offer from their start. And what a beautiful gift to give them.
We don't sit down and we don't just simply experience, all right, now I know what this doctrine is, now I understand that doctrine, now I've lived that doctrine, and be able to just check them off on a list. Instead, what happens is we experience the life of God. And when we experience the life of God, all that doctrine becomes experience, and it becomes life for us.
I can't tell you how many times a little child has given me in joy just a handful of bread, and just all the crumbs just spill everywhere, and then they just loudly tap away. Almost every time. That's something unique and special, and not, you can't purchase that, you can't force that. That is a very natural has to be an organic thing.
Because it is something, it's our participation in something that is eternal. It expands beyond itself as well. And in expanding beyond itself, the way that that happens is that we take what happens at the liturgy, we take that experience into the world around. It expands beyond itself because of us. We expand it beyond itself when we participate in it fully and make it our life, when we become liturgical beings. When we become liturgical beings, then the liturgy is like a stream of water that trickles out and just sort of spreads out. Each one of us goes out and we just continue the liturgy through the other things that we do. All of our actions become liturgical actions. All of our words become liturgical words.
And I'm a catechumen, so I'm still learning all the right ways to phrase it and to kind of know where the boundaries are. I like that this isn't something that you can just walk right into, because it means something, right? If you can't just grab it whenever you want, that means it's special and it's important. I like that I have to go through these, not quite tests, but I have to go through a few barriers. I have to go through a few gates to get to this point, which makes it special. Oh, now I know that I really want this thing. I too want to be up on the line. I also would like one day to put that bread into someone's hands.
I love the story of Zacchaeus, the guy that climbed up in the tree. One of the reasons that his story to me is so unusual is that he was really a wretched character, because he cheated people as a tax collector. And he crawled up, I think, both because he was short and because he wanted to hide. He wanted to hide, up in the tree, but he still wanted to know what was going on. And Jesus went to him. I can just see Jesus looking up in that tree and saying, Zacchaeus, come on down, because I've got to come to your house. I'm coming to your house tonight. And I'm sure the other people were shocked. What? But Jesus sought him out. And to me, that's what the Eucharist is. Jesus comes to us because he knows that we need it. He knows that we need him. And I think so many times before the Eucharist, I think, well, I feel like Zacchaeus, let me hide somewhere because I'm not worthy for him to come to me in the Eucharist, and yet he's there. And he said, I'm waiting. Now I'm here. And I'm for you.
When we become liturgical beings, we become like God, because we become like Christ, because what God is by nature, we become by grace, because we have the mind of Christ. So our mind is transfigured, because we enter into the deep heart of man. And that deep heart of man is that place where there is room for all of the rest of creation, for our neighbor. They can make room, they can make their home there. And because that's possible, we are liturgical beings. We have just made of our heart an altar for all of creation to be given to God there in our heart as a Eucharistic sacrifice, a Eucharistic gift. To believe in God does not save us, it does not transfigure us, it does not make us like him, but to know God, to experience him, to stand in his presence, to feast at his banquet table, that is to become fully alive and to become like Christ.